Dice Company contains fantasy violence, mature themes, and unapologetic bickering. No feelings were hurt in the making of it, but listener discretion is advised. Dice Company will always be free, but it's not free to make. Please consider supporting us on Patreon or Apple Podcasts and get access to our weekly roundtable show Extra Roll. Just follow any of the links in the show notes for this chapter.
Welcome one and all to Dice Company, where a group of old friends weave tales of triumph, heroism and despair under the guise of playing Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Tom, and I'll be your DM through the continuing adventures of the Order of the Heron. Order of the Heron, please introduce yourselves and your characters.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm playing Augustus, a wandering paladin.
Hi, I'm Charlie, and I play Vander Finnick.
A man.
Debatable.
Just some dude.
A magic eye.
Hello, I am Dave, and I play Bennie Quez, owner of a magic dog.
Hi, I'm Harry. I play Tock, an imposing 6'8" automaton.
And remember, stories are for eternity. When memory is erased, when there's nothing left to remember, the story remains in the next chapter of Dice Company. Previously on Dice Company, you guys all decided to take some time away from one another and enjoy a long rest over the summer period. Vander, your story took you to the small town of Rutel, where you met an old friend who promised to give you the blueprints for an upgrade on your flintlock. But first you had to deal with some bandits who had taken some kind of control over the town. You had to head across the street towards the Flask Inn. There are two doors, like proper saloon-style doors, and outside you notice, on a bench, is a little girl, and she's crying.
Vander shambles up to the doors and then looks down at the little girl, taking care to actually move his head for this one.
Girl, what troubles you?
They stole my dolly.
Someone stole your dolly. Who would do such a thing?
One of the sheriffs.
Sheriffs? I wasn't aware this town had any official sheriffs.
They're so mean. I just want her back.
I see.
Vander considers.
Tell me, girl, do you read?
Yes.
Excellent.
With that, Vander reaches into his robes and produces a small length of parchment. He passes it to the girl.
Read this. I'll be with you in just a moment.
Okay.
And with that, Vander pushes open the swinging doors and shambles into the pub.
The pub is relatively empty as you enter. There is a single barman, and you notice there are 5 quite big, burly-looking men making a lot of noise and just generally causing a bit of a nuisance of themselves. The barman looks exasperated to be dealing with them, and they're all swigging from bottles of liquor.
Vander nods serenely at the inhabitants of the pub and makes his way to the bar. He surreptitiously casts mage armor on himself.
Barman, I don't suppose you have any creme de menthe?
No, we haven't got any creme de menthe here, I'm afraid. I can do you a nice ale, friend. And he looks for a moment, obviously distracted by the horseplay happening with the others as one of them smashes a chair onto the floor. And you can see with your passive perception that he wants to try and stop them from causing trouble, but he bites back his comment. Or a water, I suppose.
I think I'll take the ale,
Vander says, smiling as he sits facing the barman.
The barman pours you an ale and he leans in. Listen, friend, you don't want to be around these parts when these guys are here. There's a lot of trouble with them.
I see. How terrible. Being as frail as I am, I've got to keep myself away from such things, you see, so I do appreciate the advice. A shame, though, that chair.
And Vander speaks louder now.
It is a sin to waste a chair. Some of us rely on them.
But the barman's eyes widen. What are you doing? As you hear a voice from the other side. And what business is it of yours?
None at all,
says Vander without turning around.
I'm just observing the principle of the matter. The elderly, such as myself, for example. need a good chair from time to time, and we don't appreciate them being destroyed while people are just larking about. My beer now, please, barman.
The barman slides the tankard across to you, and then he steps back as if he's unsure about what is about to happen. And you can sense that the 5 men that you saw horsing around all begin to turn in your direction, and they've stopped messing around now, and all attention is on you. And who exactly are you? We're the sheriffs round here. We know everyone who lives in this town, and I've never seen you before.
Oh, me. A nobody, really. Just a shambling wanderer.
Vander says in a lyrical tone.
I haven't heard of any sheriffs in this town. I've only heard tell of bandits. Ugly, bullying, pathetic nobodies. I don't suppose you've seen any of their type around, sheriffs.
Again, Vander hasn't turned.
The barman at this point heads out a door just to get out of the area of which the chaos is about to unfold.
Ah, free drink, I see. How delightful.
And Vander slurps.
We're not bandits, we're sheriffs, and I don't like loudmouth men, especially old men who are useless like you. And he comes over and he grabs you by the shoulder to spin you round to face him.
Vander is duly spun around.
I don't think you fully understand the situation, friend. We do have a problem, certainly, but it pertains to some property of mine you appear to have gained by ill means.
Oh, is that right? And what property is that?
Vander stands.
I want my dolly back.
And I, from my robes, produce the flintlock and point blank pull the trigger.
Roll for initiative, please.
God, I hope I get this.
Quiet. Couple of weeks off, I said.
This is quiet for Vander. He's enjoying some free time. 16 for initiative.
Top of the round with Vander.
As I said, I produce my flintlock and just pull the trigger point blank into his chest.
We'll have this as a bonus round for you, seeing as they didn't know that a fight was about to happen 5-on-1 against an old man. So please roll to hit.
I roll a 25.
Is a hit. Please roll for damage.
12 for 12.
Please tell us the story.
So as Vander gets whirled around, he stands and produces the flintlock as if from nowhere. The muzzle connects with the bandit's chest, and you hear the click as the flintlock goes off, throwing the bandit backwards in a hail of shrapnel and blood. He slides across the floor, motionless.
Now, calm down,
Vander says while turning on the rest of the group.
Just a little misunderstanding. No need to be upset.
The biggest of the remaining bandits, who you see is holding a dolly, says, he just shot him. Get him, everyone, get him. And you may now attack again as we're top of the round, and it's your go again.
Amazing. So can I get positions of the bandits, please?
There are 4 remaining bandits. You have 1 on the direct left of you, 1 to the right of you, and then 2 dead ahead of you.
Okay, and who's the leader of the group here?
The leader is on the left-hand side.
Okay. With a subtle gesture of my hands, I'm going to cast Cause Fear on the leader. That's a wisdom saving throw DC 16 for him.
And that would be a 7, which is a fail. You'd like to describe the fear that the leader of the bandits is currently experiencing?
Vander turns to the group and looks towards the leader.
As I say, there's no reason for there to be any violence. Not unless you want to make this pub your mausoleum.
And with that, Vander removes his mask. A hideous amalgam of his face is now visible with a gleaming orb for an eye as he pockets the mask. The leader is petrified by the sight, so much so that he is rooted to the spot and unable to respond.
Don't worry, friend. I'll be with you in just a minute.
And Vander turns back to the rest of the group.
So, boys, it appears we are about to have a fight after all.
The one on the right and the one nearest to you, dead ahead, is going to charge into hand-to-hand combat with you, while the remaining one is going to pull out a light crossbow.
Okay.
Okay, so the crossbow fires. That is a 16.
I've got 13, but I'm casting shield.
Okay, so the bolt from the light crossbow about to pierce Vander in the chest when a rippling shield suddenly appears around him, and the bolt shatters. The two draw short swords, and they both swing. First is a miss, bouncing off the shield, and the second is also a miss, bouncing off the shield.
Oh, this is going terribly for them. Okay. Vander casts Misty Step.
Okay,
I'm going to disappear from the spot I'm in and disappear just to the left of the bandit holding the crossbow. And in proximity to him, I'm going to put the flintlock to his temple and pull the trigger.
oh, God. Please roll to hit. Horrible, horrible bastard.
Oh my God. That's a 14.
14 does hit. Please roll for damage.
Okay. And that is a 9 for damage.
Please tell us the story.
From the perspective of the person holding the crossbow, he sees Vander simply disappear. And then he feels a sensation on the back of his neck. The next sensation he feels is a blast emanating from his spine. The bandit is thrown forwards over a table, his head severed from his body.
So it's the bandits' turn. The bandits look absolutely horrified by the sudden disappearance and then the loud bang of the flintlock from behind them. They spin around, but only one of them has the courage to actually charge you with his short sword. The other puts the short sword in the scabbard and pulls out his own light crossbow to fire. And once again, the bolt of the light crossbow heads towards Vander, but shatters on impact of his mage armor this time. and the short sword also bounces off the mage armor.
Amazing.
Fear saving throw for the captain,
Yep.
which he also fails. Okay, back to the top of the round with Vander.
And so I get an idea. I've got one guard directly in front of me now, and another I can see in line to the first guard. He's about 15 feet back. Let me just measure that. Okay.
Correct.
Vander smiles and says, "Oh dear." With that, he raises his hand directly out in front of him, a knife point gesture, and casts Lightning Bolt. They're lined up.
Okay, so that's 2 dexterity saving throws, and both have failed their dexterity saving throws. Please roll 8d6.
Oh my God. I once I had to roll 6 then 2. So I have a total of 24 damage to pass out for that.
Okay, so because they both failed, both take the full 24 damage. Please tell us the story of these two poor souls.
Blue lightning emanates from Vander's palm as he makes his gesture. The bolt focuses itself into a point, passing directly through the first bandit, causing a hole to appear in his chest. The second bandit takes the full force of the blast and is blown it to bits, showering the bar behind him. The first bandit slumps to his knees and then to his side, clearly dead. Now he lacks most of his vital organs.
He also drops the toy dolly onto the floor.
So it's now one bandit left with, I believe, a saving throw to make.
Which he has failed again. So he looks utterly petrified. He's sheet white and he just simply cannot move towards you. And his eyes are flicking around the inn at the remains of his friends who 18 seconds ago were all living.
I've got to be honest, it's totally understandable at this stage that he can't move. I think that's fair. Vander calmly stoops and picks up the dolly.
Ow, my dolly.
And shambles towards the one remaining bandit. As he gets to within a hand's distance of him,
My friends would be most displeased that I have been somewhat violent. It is something I'm not allowed to practice elsewhere, so I should thank you for this little holiday from reason. Now, you'll understand we need to keep up appearances. So, what I need you to do now is just stay where you are. I clean up the remainder of this little situation.
and with that, Vander casts Elias's hideous laughter.
Because these bandits haven't had a bad enough day as it is. And it's going to get worse. He fails his wisdom saving throw.
So what is he doing? Terrified laughter now.
So he's wide-eyed, like looking like he's seen the most horrific thing ever. And then his face breaks into a forced smile as he begins to laugh. And you see tears streaming down his eyes as You still see tiny pupils in his eyes as he looks terrified, but he cannot stop laughing as he falls to the floor.
Vander passes by him on his way to the exit.
I should say you're right to feel fear, friend. Don't worry. It won't last forever.
And he pushes the 2 swinging doors and makes his way back out into the sunlight.
Vander, as you walk out back into the sunlight, the little girl who was reading the parchment sees you exit and kind of follows you away from the inn. She can see that the doll is in your hands. You got my doll back.
I did, girl. And did you read the parchment?
Yes.
Then I have one dolly for you. We had an interesting discussion inside, but as you can hear, we all parted as friends.
You see her smile as you hand her the dolly back. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. And she hands you the parchment and with her doll in her hand just runs off down the street.
Ah, hatred is wasted on the young anyway.
Vander remarks as he makes his way back across the thoroughfare in the direction of the forge.
And you see that Colton has actually stood outside of his hut this time. And he's looking at you with slight confusion on his face, having just seen you hand a dolly over. But he does have a blueprint in his hand.
Ah, Colton. I believe I've improved on my original estimation of 10 minutes. Though sadly, no creme de menthe. No plan goes perfectly. But there we are. I will require those blueprints now.
And Vander's hand extends.
Of course. What did you do to them? I just saw Bill, the barman, running off down the street. He hands you the blueprints.
Just a little conversation between those of us who understand the darker side of things, shall we say. I don't suppose they'll be troubling you again anytime soon, though.
You sure? And he looks across the street. It sounds like he's laughing.
Yes, a little subterfuge to assist our young friend there in leaving this situation untainted, as it were. But you're right, he is a loose end.
And with that, Vander turns, points at the bar, and casts Fireball.
And the terrified and hysterically laughing captain fails his dexterity saving throw. Please roll 8d6.
Oh my good god, that is a 39. Oh god! That might be a little bit more powerful than I was like, okay, fair enough, we're here, that happened.
Vander, you turn around and with a point of your cane, an enormous fireball erupts, flies across the street at high speed, in through the double doors, and with a boom, the entire inn just gets incinerated.
Oh my god.
Just like explodes. There's bits of wood flying everywhere. Colton's face, his jaw has dropped almost to the floor as he stands there wide-eyed staring at the wreckage. What did you do?
Well, you may need to inform your friend Bill that he needs a new pub. But on the upside, you really don't need to concern yourself with those bandits anymore, for they are all dead.
Colton is too shocked to respond to you.
Vander politely plucks the blueprints out of Colton's hands.
Very great pleasure to see you again, Colton. I'm sure it was as much a pleasure to reunite with me, an old comrade. Perhaps next time we could share a drink,
he says, looking back at the pub.
Maybe in a year or so's time, though.
And Vander blinks.
Yes, I suppose we could.
Excellent. I don't suppose I could ask one final favor.
What is it?
If you wouldn't mind helping an old man back onto his coach. I have business elsewhere. And promises to keep, you see. Wastes.
And Colton helps you back up onto the stagecoach. Thank you. And you can see he's stuttering, trying to find the words. And in the end, he just blurts out, "Don't come back soon."
No promises, Colton. You have a rare gift. But don't worry. You'll always have a friend in the blade itself.
Vander unleashes the brake, and the horses start at a very slow pace as the carriage begins to make its way slowly and back in the direction of Sanctuary.
Bye now.
Augustus, when you awaken in the morning, Corith is stood. He looks slightly kind of bent double. Almost, it reminds you quite a lot of Vander in the way that he kind of shuffles towards the cart. We are ready to leave, friends.
Yes, we are. We trust you had a peaceful night?
I think so.
Good. Well, perhaps you'd like to climb aboard and make yourself comfortable. Perhaps a little more rest as we rumble along.
You guys continue on now with Corith. The going is slow. The scenery, the environment around you once again appears more damaged than it was the day before. It's almost like you started out on a flat piece of land, and the closer towards the citadel you've got, the more damage the land has become.
And does Augustus have a feeling for what that kind of was? Does it look like a kind of meteor struck here, or is there some obviously magical features?
If it was it would have to have been something enormous that hit in the ground to cause this kind of devastation. You have no idea what that would be.
Augustus looks around sadly at the ruins and feels a degree of trepidation about what he's going to find as we go onwards towards the citadel.
As you're travelling, Corith is talking with the gnomes in the back, and you are riding up front alongside Thrain. And you can hear the gnomes, they're a lot less chatty than they were before. Something about Corith is obviously making them feel a bit uncomfortable. And after a few hours of travel, he kind of leans forward towards you. Augustus Zeno, my friend, your sword, it is a rapier.
Yes, that's correct. You're an enthusiast for blades?
The design of it is appealing to the eyes.
Oh, we found it discarded in a deep cave.
Give me a perception check, please.
Come on, Augustus. Perceive something. Another 7.
And Corith, after having looked at the sword and complimenting it, very carefully and slowly turns himself back and huddles up in the back, and moments later he appears to be asleep. And you continue travelling for the rest of the day before setting up camp once again. Can I have a survival check, please?
3. I die while pitching my tent.
You set up the camp and set up the campfire, get the campfire going, and you all sit round, and unlike previous nights, it's very quiet and subdued. The appearance of Corith in your travels has obviously caused everyone to clam up a little bit, and no one seems to be particularly chatty. And after an extended period of silence, Corith kind of lifts his head. Augustus Zeno, why are you travelling into Roanoke?
Well, as I said, Corith, my homeland of Denothalia used to count this region as a friend and an ally. So I'm interested to discover what happened to cause the devastation you see around you.
But you are not travelling to the citadel itself.
This is a scouting mission for now. We also perhaps hope to hunt for some food. I also had some friends in this area. I hoped to track them down, although I see few people now live here.
Indeed, it is devastated. Perhaps, if I make it to the citadel, I may find your friends.
Perhaps you will. Perhaps we shall find them together. Although I must admit I hold little hope to find much alive in this landscape.
Because you have shown such kindness to me by taking me as far as you can. When I reach the citadel, if there are any people, I will ask if they know Augustus Zeno, and if they do, I shall keep them safe until you can return.
Thank you. That's very kind. And you may tell them if they ever wish to find us, the mountains to the south between here and Sladeholme would be a good place to search.
Give me a perception check.
Eventually, I'm going to perceive something. 11? Nope.
And the rest of the evening passes with little incident, and you guys get some more sleep. So Tock, 1.3 reoccurring weeks after you begin your crafting sessions, there is another knock at your door.
Tock will again, whilst doing his work, say, "You may enter."
The door opens gently, and in floats Seraphina, closing the door behind her.
Tock will almost too quickly down tools, and there's not really a way to make someone comfortable in a workshop, and Tock doesn't really understand the concept of comfort being an automaton, but he will give her his full attention immediately.
She looks around the sparsely populated of furniture workshop, and with a twist of her hand and a small muttering, vines grow up out of the floor into the shape of a chair, which she sits in, and then she raises a second one, for you to sit in as well.
That is very impressive, Squirrel. It would have taken me significantly longer to construct a chair. And Tock will sit down in the chair opposite.
She giggles at your comment. Hey, Tock. We've all heard you working away in here. How are things going?
The workshop that was created meets specifications. The villagers of Haven have my thanks. You have my thanks.
Well, thank you. And remember, it's Sanctuary now.
Indeed, Sanctuary. That is a good name. I am most impressed by the illusion spell that you have cast on this area. It covers a wide area. It is powerful.
It is powerful. It's not entirely illusory. I know that you thrive on facts and details, but it is a specific ritual that I have learned how to cast, which means that this place, while appearing like an illusion from the outside, is very much real on the inside.
I believe it to be a sanctum.
You are correct.
The obsidian matrix contains much knowledge.
I know it does. I wanted to speak to you partially about the obsidian matrix and about the future.
I would find that to be acceptable.
Tock, I believe in the months and perhaps years ahead, I will need your help.
If help is required, help will be provided.
That is good to hear. Your creator, Tick, was an advisor and confidant to Angram, as you know.
Indeed, they were friends.
They were, and he stood alongside his gnomish friend all the way until the fall of the Citadel.
That is a story for which I lack information. Tick did not provide information. The obsidian matrix lacks information.
Yes, I can see why. The only people who know what happened were the people there that day.
I believe many Rojan fell.
They did, my friends.
I lack information as to how Tick survived. He was resourceful, as were the Rojan.
I can provide you some information, but first, I need you to understand what I plan. I plan to reignite the flame of the Rojan. The Council must rise once again, and in order for that to happen, I believe that I need you. Would you consider taking Tick's place in the Council, an advisor and confidant to us all?
That is a good plan. I would find it to be acceptable. I believe Tick was not a member of the Council. He was a friend to the Council.
That is correct, but it did not diminish his importance to us in any way.
Indeed, automatons exist outside human structures.
They do, although Tick was always very good at blending seamlessly into our constructed coaches.
Indeed, he possessed much experience. I am sad that I lack that experience.
Well, that's the thing about experience. You will eventually gain it if you put yourself out there.
I would find that to be acceptable.
Good. Now, you wanted to know about the Citadel and its fall and how Tick escaped.
Indeed.
Well, I can tell you what I do know, although I don't know everything. We knew that Salazar wanted the Obsidian Matrix, but a plan was formulated for me to bypass the Alokian magic he'd used to restrict arcane movement. Sage Whisper marched beyond the shattered gate to buy me time, and in that moment, I transported myself and Tick from the Citadel. Once I knew Tick was safe, I tried to return, but couldn't. Hours later, from the safety of Lanasil, we heard the eruptions from hundreds of miles away. When Salazar realized the Matrix had escaped with Tick, he destroyed the entire region.
By what method did he destroy the region?
That I do not know.
Such weapons seem beyond the abilities of mortals, and in the realm of the gods.
That is something that has plagued my dreams for years. I do not believe it to have been a weapon as such, but some kind of divine intervention.
Divine intervention from Kale. He is the god that the Empire worship. He is evil.
That is true, and that would make sense. I can think of no other god who would want to help Salazar at that moment.
Query, the power of the gods. Is it equal, or is there hierarchy amongst their number? Augustus worships the god Tyr. Is he the equal of Kale in power, weapons, divine intervention?
These are very good questions, and they may be questions better suited for people who have a greater understanding.
Valeria, she is a priestess of Cassandra.
She is. She may have some understanding of it. She is not what I would call an expert on the matter. She knows the broad strokes, and if it's Cassandra you want to know about, she would be able to fill you in great detail and at great length. But when it comes to Kale, your best bet is to speak to someone who worships Kale, a scholar of some kind, for which I am not.
We could attempt to capture a Shadow Vanguard. They are worshippers of Kale. They are powerful. Vander believes he can make them talk.
Give me an insight check.
That is not Tock's specialty. Tock gets a 9.
Tock, for all of your incredible abilities, you do not have all of the information available to you. I might see if I can fill in some of the gaps. What do you know about the first chapter of Tyros?
The first chapter of Tyros was recruited. They were trained. Then there was an incident. They were missing. Information regarding the incident is not found.
I think it's time you knew the truth.
Logical induction would suggest a link to the Shadow Vanguard. The timing would be convenient for Kale, the Empire, Salazar.
There is a spark of tick in you after all. We had worked hard to train the first chapter in the ways of the Roshan, and they had showed great promise and power. The Dawn Rider's first Tyro became de facto leader of the whole chapter, charismatic and powerful, but he quickly grew bored with our teachings and demanded more learning and more power. When it was denied him, he left the Order to seek it himself. The rest of the chapter stayed, but his leadership and departure had already corrupted them, and something we did not discover until years later, when the remaining 10 joined him. It was not as simple as betrayal, though. They were changed. Nothing about the first chapter was the same as when they left. They became unnatural, corrupted somehow, and they started referring to themselves as the Shadow Vanguard. And their de facto leader renamed himself Salazar.
The Emperor Salazar was a Tyro.
He was the first Tyro, and he was trained by the Dawn Rider.
Tock sort of goes quiet in contemplation for a while whilst he takes that in. That would explain Salazar's tactical and strategic brilliance.
He learned everything she had to offer, and then he disappeared for years, seeking more and more knowledge and understanding of tactics and power. And when the first chapter finally joined him, they disappeared for some time too, and they all of them came back changed. You have seen the Shadow Vanguard in action?
We have fought with 4 Shadow Vanguard. We have fled from 2. 2 Shadow Vanguard have been vanquished.
And you have done incredibly well as a team to survive any encounters with them.
The location the first chapter of Tyros left to become Shadow Vanguard, is that known? Can it be known?
The Shadow Vanguard were taken to Lunadan in Alphon and trained in a temple there. After the creation of the Empire, each Shadow Vanguard, the number having swelled to 12, was gifted one area under their control.
One area of Lunadyne, or one area of Athlon.
One area of Athlon. So you will know the Tavish and Tiara, the twins, they oversaw Ophik.
A new Shadow Vanguard would have to be selected. The twins are vanquished.
But they were not original first chapter Tyros. They themselves were replacements.
Do you have information as to the current Shadow Vanguard numbers?
I believe that there are 12. As I understand it, the training involves a great deal of torture and abuse. Their wills must be broken to make them more malleable for the Emperor.
Query. Do prospective Shadow Vanguard have to be willing? Can the process be performed on an unwilling subject?
I do not know for sure, but I do not believe they have to be willing. They are when they are finished.
I believe Vander underwent significant torture, physical harm, emotional and mental harm in the custody of the Shadow Vanguard.
It is entirely possible that they had earmarked him as a new Shadow Vanguard.
Query. Would this be the reason for the lack of trust that you had for Vander upon your first meeting?
That is part of the reason, yes. I still do not trust him, even if I do understand the horrors that he has been subjected to. But that is more a personal decision than a logical one.
Kalen, our friend from original Haven, has been captured by the Shadow Vanguard Morven. He is being held in the Fingers. He may be undergoing torture, conversion to Shadow Vanguard. Is there a method of ascertaining his allegiance?
We would have to get to him as soon as possible.
I would find that to be acceptable.
I have already intimated that to Bennie and to Vander. Anyway, Tock, do you have any more questions?
So Tock won't so much have questions. He'll probably explain the process that Vander and Tock went through with the sort of do the inception to convert them over. But then he'll also inform her about Plex. I'm not entirely sure if she would have known about that from speaking to Plex, but he'll explain that Bennie's sort of reckoning when he awoke as a potential tyro, when his powers came to fruition, that was the sort of the spark, the lightning that hit Plex, gave him sentience in a way that Tock is still not sure about.
She was aware of that, but she just reiterates that the power of a Rojan is something unique and quite wild if it's not trained and maintained and looked after.
It is sad that this power cannot be harnessed to gift sentience once more to other automatons.
If we were able to find any more potential tyros in the making, there's nothing stopping us from doing that.
Is it possible to sense potential tyros, detect before the reckoning?
It is not a perfected art. We Rojan are stronger together, and so there may be inklings if there's enough of us in an area with one with high potential.
It may be a possibility once the Rojan Council is reformed. I will wait for that to occur.
Indeed. The only surefire way would be if we know that someone's parents were Rojan.
It is hereditary.
Indeed.
Are any such candidates known?
There was one, Atticus Beauregard, of the 3rd chapter. He fell in the final battle at the Citadel.
Squirrel, there is something that I wish to show you if you have not seen it already.
What's that?
Tick has been assisting Valeria with the construction of a new grove or sanctuary. I wish to plant a sapling in this grove. And Tock will take out his Jurima sapling case and open it. And again, the sort of golden light emanating from the 3 saplings will spill out into the room.
Oh, Jurima wood.
Indeed, they are cuttings from the Jurima tree that was used by Tick to construct me and was used by Tock to construct Tick.
You notice that she's started to cry quietly. You see tears streaming down her cheek.
Squirrel, your face appears to be leaking fluid.
She laughs. The trees remind me of home, that's all.
You refer to the forests of Lanosil, the city of Landaloran.
That's right.
My memories of Lanosil are unclear. They may have been clouded by time. They are good memories. It was a good place.
I'm sure it still is. One day, I hope I'll be welcomed back.
I also wish to return one day.
Perhaps we will return together.
I would find that to be acceptable. Tock will get up and open the door for Squirrel to go to show her the grove that Tick has been making. Before he leaves, he will take a small chest out of the bag of holding and carry it with him.
And as she accepts the offer and walks out the door, you see a flick of her hand again, and the vine chairs disappear back into the earth. Augustus, you have now been travelling for a further 3 days. Each evening ends the same way, with you and your group sitting awkwardly around a campfire with very little in the way of conversation. On the 7th day of travel, with the landscape looking completely devastated and the going quite difficult for the cart that you're on, the rain pulls the horses up Augustus, we cannot travel further if we are to make it back in time for the return of the Sterling. The expedition must end here.
Yes, I agree, Thrain. I believe we will run out of supplies if we continue. There seems little chance of finding much worth eating here.
Horith, that sword. So, Augustus, Zeno, this is where we depart.
I'm afraid so, my friend. And it pains me to leave you when you are still not fully recovered, either your strength or your memories. But if you are determined to go on, then indeed we must part here.
I am determined. I must thank you for everything you have done.
Think nothing of it, my friend. We hope to see you again.
Indeed. And if I find any of your friends, I will tell them where you are and do my best to keep them safe.
Thank you. And certainly any friend of mine will do the same for you.
Farewell.
Farewell.
And he turns and just begins to shuffle in a very Vander-like way into the devastated environment beyond.
Yeah, Augustus watches him with the kind of pained eyes of a parent that's just accidentally dropped a 4-year-old at secondary school, or high school for our American listeners.
And with that, Thrain turns the cart around and you begin to head back towards Sanctuary. Tock, you lead Seraphina to the newly partially constructed grove. When you get there, you find Tick and Valeria. So the two have obviously been hard at work over the last week or so. A lot of the vegetation has been cleared away to allow paths, and there's beds that have been planted with neatly arranged plants. A very pleasing asymmetrical view of them. There are a number of large, what appear to be carved stones, which have been set up as like seating places in there. But there's still thick vegetation above eye level, which gives it an almost enclosed, almost like it's an interior space.
Are there any trees in the area? Presumably they would have selected somewhere that had some trees to begin with.
There are a number of ash trees. There's even a walnut tree and an oak tree in there as well.
Tock will take it in an appreciative sort of glance across the whole grove.
They have done incredible work.
Indeed, Valeria selected this site for its potential. Some potential has been realized.
And Valeria gets up from planting a shrub and comes over. Hi, Tock. Mother.
Greetings, Valeria. How goes the progress on the grove?
It's coming along very nicely, if I do say so myself. I think we are less than a week away from being done.
I am pleased.
What brings the two of you to the grove now?
I wished to show Squirrel Mother the grove that you had constructed. I wished to plant a sapling. Is there a suitable location? Tock will again open the Jurima case.
Valeria will look at the case for a moment and then look to Seraphina. Well, I hope that it meets her approval. And of course, we will find a place for your Jurima sapling. I know just the place. Follow me.
And Tock will follow along. His footsteps being noticeably lighter than they normally are.
She takes you round behind the walnut tree to a nice spacious area with freshly turned earth that's kind of loose and crumbly in your hand. I think this would be the best place.
Indeed, you have judged well. Mimosa hostilis, the Jurima tree, does well in freshly turned earth. It is a pioneer plant. Tock will not waste any time. He will take one of the saplings out of the case and using his herbalism kit, which I assume will include a comically small spade.
Of course.
And he will very carefully and gently plant the Jurima sapling in the indicated location and then construct from some small like hazel twigs and things like a small protective mini fence around it to stop sort of deer or whatever eating.
Seraphina and Valeria watch you during this entire process. Give me an insight check.
So that's a 14.
You're not an expert in the interactions of humans, but you have spent a lot of time around them recently. It is somewhat unusual to you that Valeria and Seraphina are not talking amongst themselves.
Either it's just a very solemn moment, or there is some kind of friction between them.
It reminds you of when Vander and Bennie have a particularly nasty row.
Tock will make note of that, but he is not well equipped to do anything about it, and fortunately now knows enough to not do something about it when he's not equipped. No jumping off airships today.
You plant the Jarima sapling and you establish the fencing around it quite quickly.
It is complete. There is one additional task. And Tock will again take out that chest that he brought over from his workshop. And it is the chest that he got in Verikir that was the property of Rashar Kadan, who taught him chess. And he'll open it with the view to remembering her and having some kind of rite or ceremony. In fact, he will open it. He will then also tap the obsidian matrix on his arm. Obsidian matrix. What are the funerary rites of the orcs of the southern continent? The orcs of the Crimson Reach. The legions, specifically.
There is a momentary crackle, and then a new voice speaks to you in response.
The rituals of death for my people are simple. Upon death, the possessions most associated to the fallen warrior are handed to one most closely linked with their final death, a sign of respect to keep the flame of life burning. What remains of body, clothes, and possessions are then returned to the earth to replenish and nurture the ground. Their weapons are to be used as a symbol of their place of rest, to remind further generations that a mighty orc lays to rest there.
Tock will look at Seraphina and Valeria and say, the weapons of the mighty orc, Rashar Kadan, are buried in Verokir, where a necromancer was slain. These are her belongings. And Tock will open the chest and take a look inside.
Inside is an intricately carved, perfectly made chess set, having the representation of orcish people. Beyond that, there are some purple and yellow clothing, which you know is associated with the military. There is a single long dagger in there, and there is a collection of around 14 silver.
Okay, I don't think Tock is going to think that it's appropriate to bury this. It seems that the sort of intent of the funerary rite is for this to be kept, rather than Tock will know that humans tend to bury their dead, and often with items, but it appears orcs don't. So instead of either burying this in the grove, or as he was intending to possibly hang something up on a tree, he will merely show of the items to Valeria and Squirrel and say, by these items, Rashar Kadan will be remembered. I will distribute them to those close to her death. So I think Tock will hold on to them for now, and he may distribute some of them to the rest of the party, keeping the chess set for himself.
The two nod in appreciation to the effort you've gone to. They then nod at one another, and Seraphina kind of beckons you to leave the grove.
Tock will follow, and as he was going, will say, farewell, Valeria Frostborn. I wish for us to meet again.
I'm sure we will, Tock. Goodbye, and goodbye, Mother.
Tick will make a move to follow Tock as he leaves.
As you leave the grove area, you notice Bennie stood by the side of the lake, and he's moving in a very expressive and slow manner.
Bennie, I believe you are dancing like Vander. Your motions are more graceful.
He doesn't respond. Seraphina says, I am training him to control his most base powers. I wanted to tell you, that voice you heard in the obsidian matrix.
Indeed.
That was Malgoth, the towering shield.
Tick had spoken of this Rojan. He was the master of protection.
And he was a good friend. I miss him every day.
His loss makes me feel sad.
Me too. But it does raise the question of the obsidian matrix. It is yours by right, and you have proven yourself adept at keeping it hidden and safe. I could take that burden from you. We could keep it here. I cannot guarantee it's more safe here, but I wanted to offer.
I will consider your offer before we leave.
I need to go train Bennie anyway.
It is good that he is training.
It is. I like him very much.
He is a good man.
And she nods at you and then leaves.
Tock will return the nod, and then he will make his way back to his workshop to continue his work.
Augustus, you, Thrain, and the rest of the gnomes return back to Sanctuary 7 days later. The return journey was much smoother than the journey out, and once you re-emerge into Sanctuary, you notice Tock walking with the woman who he identified as the priestess of Cassandra. They are working in the northeast, and they have built a beautiful grove. And then he marches with Tick back towards his workshop.
So it's a little known fact about Augustus that he really likes plants. He spent a bit of time planting seeds and growing vegetables as a child back in Denothea, which has very rich and fertile lands. So he uses that as an excuse to wander up and have a look around the grove, to have a conversation with the priestess of Cassandra.
As you enter the grove, you feel an immediate sense of calm before you. You're quite tired from 2 weeks' worth of travelling, and being in this obviously holy place is very good immediately for your soul. The priestess looks up from a planting bed nearby. Oh, hello, you're Augustus.
Yes, I am. And what is your name, my good lady?
My name is Valeria. Tock has told me a lot about you.
Oh, I'm sure he exaggerates.
He is a sweetheart, and he only says good things of you.
Well, he certainly is a sweetheart.
He may not have mentioned me, but I am a priestess of Cassandra.
I believe he did mention you. And what does that role involve here in Sanctuary, where we all find ourselves carving out new positions?
In Old Haven, I acted as a sort of guidance counsellor for the villagers, and I hope to provide a similar service here. The Seraphina is obviously very powerful and has taken her rightful leadership role, but she does not appear that in tune with the god.
Very well, and so you hope to provide that spoke of the wheel, so to speak.
Indeed. I plan to be the clerical guidance for the people of Sanctuary.
Well, says Augustus in the style of someone who has gone to the doctor and therefore clearly needs to talk to the doctor, but is pretending like he doesn't need to talk to the doctor. It's interesting you should say that, Valeria, because I do have a religious question, if you'll permit me.
Of course, please, have a seat on the bench, and she points you towards a stone bench.
Augustus looks at the bench, then sits on it, stands back up, and finally sits down again. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's discovered his hands don't know where to be either. It's all very awkward.
She sits down next to him.
I'll come straight to it. I have taken an oath to the god Tyr. Are you familiar with this deity?
I know Tyr.
I hope I do not offend you, as you, I believe, follow a different god.
I follow Cassandra. Cassandra is the god of clairvoyance, would be the easiest way to describe her. She works in tandem with other gods, including Tyr, so I'm not offended.
Very well. Well, I have from time to time heard what I consider to be the voice of Tyr in my mind.
That is common for champions of certain gods.
Okay, Augustus gives her a sharp look, and his respect has gone up slightly for her because obviously he didn't say he was the champion of Tyr, so she's seen through him to some extent. My concern, though, is that some of the things the voice has said to me of late do not necessarily chime with my own moral code, or are somewhat confusing, and I wonder what a champion of a god ought to do in such a situation.
I am glad that you came to me. I have been aware of you and a certain destiny around you for many weeks now, even before, I believe, you took your oath.
Certain destiny?
Indeed.
And so what of my dilemma? What is the right decision if your god bids you do one thing and your heart bids you do another?
You have been straightforward with me, so allow me to be straightforward with you. There is a darkness around you. Something is corrupting and twisting energy around your very essence, a wound in the weave of magic and divine. If you would allow me, I may be able to see the truth of the matter with the help of Cassandra.
I might allow this. I'm certainly interested to know what this darkness is, although I'm troubled to hear of it. What would it involve?
I will pray to Cassandra with you here, and we will see if we can reach the truth of the matter.
Very well.
And she takes you by both hands, closes her eyes. You begin to hear muttering from her. Oh, Cassandra, please talk to me. There is darkness. Please let me know what is going on. We must understand. This is not how Tyr normally acts. What is happening? Please, the truth, the truth, the truth. Suddenly, her head jolts back and her eyes snap open, and they are jet black in colour, and she begins to speak in a language you don't understand.
Augustus leans away in fright, but doesn't pull his hands away because he's now very keen to understand what she can discern from this weird communion with her god.
And her grip tightens on your hands as she speaks louder and louder and louder. The air around you seems to darken, but you can't take your eyes off of her. And then her head snaps back, her eyes clear, and she shakes her head. What happened?
I had rather hoped you would tell me. Your eyes went black, the air around us seemed to darken.
I was praying to Cassandra as I normally do, and then my mind was filled with nothing, pure nothingness. There is something wrong with you, Augustus. You are corrupted. I need time to think. You should leave this place. The ground is about to be consecrated, and you shouldn't be here when it happens.
Why, though? Surely you cannot dismiss me in this strange way. I need information. You've given me a terrible warning.
Give me a persuasion check, please. Do a charisma.
Augustus does a charisma. 24.
There is darkness around you, Augustus. Something is corrupting you. Look, you need to visit a temple of Tyr. There is one in Deepmond. I think that's the closest. If you go there and speak to a priest, his name is Pontus, he may be able to help you.
And when you say a darkness around me, within me? Or somehow coming from Tyr? I do not understand.
You are cursed. Something has cursed you.
What could do such a thing? A god?
The gods that curse. Lesser deities like Thrall and Galmanir and Gilgamel. These creatures they're known as the Old Ones. Terrible creatures from beyond the veil. One of them must be trying to corrupt you. I do not know how.
Only these creatures could cause this curse?
One of the other gods may. A trickster god of some kind, a god of war. Could be Kale himself. I don't know. And Cassandra won't tell me. And it is not safe for me to be around someone like you.
I have one thought, one final question.
Ask.
This sword, and Augustus looks really sad to be raising this. I found this sword in the City of the Dead. I thought it came to me from Tyr, but now I wonder if perhaps this has something to do with the curse you describe. Could taking an artifact bring a curse upon me?
Which is one of the most common ways to be cursed. Place the sword on the ground.
Okay, well, Augustus is going to try to do that.
As you place Ember onto the ground, you stand up, and strangely it's still grasped in your hand. You seem incapable of putting the sword down.
I cannot explain this, but I am finding it very difficult to lay the sword on the earth.
You see her eyes widen. Then the sword is cursed, and you must speak to a priest to remove that curse.
I see.
Its power over you grows every day. How long have you had it?
Just a few weeks.
Have you killed any living creatures with it?
No, I killed some undead creatures in the City of the Dead, but no living creature.
That is good. That increases your chances of successfully removing the curse, but do not delay too long. Corruption is slow to begin with, but it gains momentum.
Very well. I will certainly seek a priest, and now I will withdraw from your sacred place. I thank you, and I'm sorry to have brought this upon you.
Good luck.
Augustus gives her a kind of final wide-eyed stare, and then looks again at his hand with the sword in it, and puts it in the sheath as the best way he can put it down.
Bennie, it has been 2 weeks, and you have been waiting patiently and training with Seraphina this whole time. As you are practicing some of the maneuvers that she showed you alongside the Azure Lake, you suddenly hear the voice of Boffo in your head. Prison guard, forged documents, Rook, River City. Prison blueprints, Halfair, Deepmond. Bribable custodian, Christoph Mellencamp. White Top, Master Thief, Reg Smith, Red Feathers, Sprig.
I've got my sending stone. This is all a bit new to me, so I'm not really sure how it works. So I sort of look at the sending stone and look a bit quizzical, and then I say hello. And I'm talking into the sending stone. Hello? How does this work? And then I concentrate and try to think and send a message. Thanks. I knew there were a reason I let you stick around. By the way, does everyone think we're dead?
As you stand by the Azure Lake, you can see Tock emerging from his cabin on the other side, and appearing from the grove is Augustus, who you haven't seen for nearly the entire time.
You hear Tock's subtlest voice over a great distance saying, Augustus, you have returned.
Yes, Tock, I have returned. A conquering hero.
Bennie comes wandering over, not too fast, wants to make sure Augustus doesn't think he's too keen to see him, but does head over that way and say, "You're right, Augustus, it's been a while."
Yes, Bennie, I'm absolutely fine. And Augustus is incredibly pale and clearly sweating profusely.
Augustus, it is good to see you.
You too, Tock. Yes, it's great to see you both.
How did your scouting in Roanoke go?
Roanoke? Yes. Very, very successful. Thank you, Tock.
You all right, Augustus? You look awful.
Yes. How are you?
Wilderness a bit much for you, was it?
Yes. Just lacking home comforts. I'm a man of leisure, as you know. I'm looking forward to a soft bed.
Would you like to continue the conversation in the bathhouse?
Very well, Tock, of course, if that's what you prefer.
I have no preference. It is a home comfort for humans.
A good point, Tock. Let's wander in that direction, shall we?
Right. Let's go and have a chat in the bathhouse.
You guys head towards the newly constructed bathhouse.
Bit of news. I just heard from Boffo. Did you meet Boffo, Augustus?
I believe I saw you speaking to an old friend.
Yeah, that's right. Boffo. Old pal from Middleton. Turned up, told me everyone knows dead. Anyway, he's been in touch. He's in Slateholm and gave me some quite useful information, actually. So I got a list of things. Talk about rescuing Kaelin, obviously. Sorry, might not have been clear there. We could get ourselves some prison guard forged documents in River City. Probably get our hands on some blueprints at Fingers in Deepmond. There's a custodian he reckons we could bribe over in Whitetop. Or there's a master thief who might be pretty handy in Sprig. Anyone got any ideas as to where we should be heading first?
Boffo appears competent, useful. He is a good gnome and friend.
Yeah, competent and useful. 2 words that very well describe him.
Prison blueprints would be useful. It is a large complex.
Yeah, seems like it might be first stop, doesn't it? And am I right that Deepmond's not too far from here, so it might make a bit of sense to go there first?
Indeed. I would estimate 1 or 2 days travel.
What do you reckon, Augustus?
Very well. I'd rather hoped to visit Deepmond. I hear there is a temple of Tyr there, and I'm still in the early stages of my religious education. I should like to visit it and commune with my god if I can.
Oh, yeah, plenty of time for sightseeing, obviously. Perfect. Don't see why we wouldn't.
I can provide advice for communing with a deity. Tock will demonstrate by, just prostrating himself by falling forwards, just flat onto his face in the mud.
Augustus, who just can't deal with this physical comedy at this moment, just stares wide-eyed at Tock and says, very good, Tock. I shall consider that option as we travel.
You hear Tock's voice slightly muffled by the ground underneath him saying, I am glad I have been of assistance in this matter. And he picks himself back up.
Has anyone seen Vander, by the way? I imagine he'll have an opinion.
Negative.
I'm sure he's fine. He'll turn up when he's hungry.
And like a cat.
At this moment, you turn around and you see the familiar face of Vander as he hobbles towards you, while overhead, the canopy of trees begins to retreat. You look down and see Seraphina waving her staff as you see the familiar underside of the Sterling cruising through and landing with a slight splash in the Azure Lake. Seconds later, a much smaller ship follows and lands next to the Sterling. Seraphina closes the gap as the people of Sanctuary cheer. From the poop deck of the Sterling emerges Plex, dressed in black breeches, a loose white shirt, and a black hat. He waves a cutlass in the air, and the people cheer again, and he leaps from the deck of the ship straight into the lake, followed by the familiar faces of Otis and Nozzle. All 3 emerge from the lake seconds later. He sees Vander and approaches. Hello, Mustang. I am pleased you are alive.
Plex, says Vander, in awe of his amazing garb.
I understand you are A pirate captain?
Yine, I am the Dread Pirate Plex.
Interesting.
Tock will gesture at Plex's clothes and say, Plex, it is good to see you again. I am impressed by your efforts to blend in with the humans. The disguise is seamless.
Thank you, Tock. It is good to see you too. Bardo Schultz explained to me that now I am a person, I should act like one, and people wear clothes.
Not just a person, Tock, but one who enjoys adventure.
Indeed, Vander.
I confess I feel something akin to pride.
Thank you.
Plex, not all people wear clothes. On several adventures involving bathhouses, the rest of our party have disrobed to commit various tasks.
That was an accident. We've been through this.
Was the nakedness of the murder?
Removing the clothes was a choice. The town race person getting killed was an accident.
Removing the clothes was a choice, and the rest is history.
I am glad to see you are all alive. When I thought you were dead, I experienced sadness. Bardo Schultz told me to harness sadness and turn it against the Empire. He explained showmanship and panache to me. I have implemented it into the character of the Dread Pirate Plex. Imperial dogs quiver in my wake. That is my catchphrase. Bardo says a catchphrase is important to help people remember my name.
Bardo is correct. The catchphrase is good.
Vander tries to speak, but then he looks as if he's broken down, and a tear runs down his face of sheer joy.
Vander, your face appears to be leaking fluids.
Yes, Tock, it is most unusual for me to express myself so, but here we are.
I would very much like to hear how your adventures have been and how you survived and why you did not contact Bardo Schultz so that I knew that you were alive.
Tock will launch into a long, detailed, and very, dull version of the story of us going to Veracare.
Bennie will say, alternatively, I hear there's a book coming out, so you could just wait for that. And tell the whole story of, I think it's Augustus and Vander's amazing adventures. Something like that, anyway.
As you can see, Plex, Tock has not changed, but our friend Bennie has become a stone-cold killer and acquired the name the Dreadlude.
Plex, have you, as Bardo seems to have a lot to say for himself, has he explained humour to you?
Bardo is one of the funniest humans alive, according to him.
Yeah.
He has explained humor. Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, ha, ha.
Haunting.
My point was that was Vander's attempt at it. Please continue to refer to me as Bennie.
Okay, Bennie. Ha, ha, ha.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, Captain, I would enjoy a visit to the poop deck. No pun intended.
Of course, Vander. That is acceptable. Please take care of my ship while aboard it. I must address the people.
My God,
says Vander, in some shock as he shambles in the direction of the ship.
From behind you, you see Plex walking up to the now gathered people of Sanctuary. People of Sanctuary, we were successful in our raid. Imperial dogs will quiver in our wake. We will strike them again soon. If anyone would like to join the Dread Pirate Plex, you are welcome. It would be acceptable. Down with the Empire. And the people respond with a Down with the Empire chant.
Tock will join in. Down with the Empire.
Bennie leans into Vander and says, looks like we might not be getting our airship back.
This fact has not escaped Vander. He nods at Bennie and continues to shamble in the direction of where the captain dwells.
You head towards your former quarters, and in it you find a very roughly constructed workshop, similar to Tock's, but not quite as complex or complicated. There is a singular chair there, which has obviously been roughly made out of metal, and on the back, inscribed, kind of carved into it, is Dread Pirate Plex on the top.
The room has been improved significantly.
Vander looks around with a rather blank emotion as joy is quickly being replaced by something a little darker.
Tock will go back to his room. Presumably, since all the workshop stuff is in our rooms in Sanctuary, his room is no longer a workshop.
So each of you check your rooms. You find them empty. They have very basic setups with just a bed and a chest of drawers. And it's clear that whoever lived in them before has hastily kind of gathered up all their stuff. And you find the occasional sock just underneath the bed, and an unmade bed.
Vander, meanwhile, has walked out of the captain's quarters and back onto the main deck, where he awaits Plex.
It takes about 10 minutes or so, and Plex, Otis, and Nozzle all return.
Otis, Nozzle, it is a rare delight to see you well, and apparently crew members aboard a new captain's ship.
Yes, Vander, it is good to see you too.
And of course, a pleasure again to see you, Plex. I don't suppose you remember the first evening you stood aboard the Sterling.
Vander, my memories of time before my sentience are clouded.
On that evening, you stood in this very spot. The ship was in great disrepair, but still, together, we managed to take flight. I remember standing beside you and telling you of the many great adventures we would partake of. But at that time, you didn't appear to be sentient. For the many years that followed, of course, I was the captain. And that brings me to a new question, Plex. What are your intentions for the Sterling?
Vander, I took control of the Sterling because I thought you were dead. I worked in tandem with Bartle Schultz, the hero of the people.
I am delighted to hear it. Now, of course, your captain has returned.
Bennie has pulled up a deck chair and is at least enjoying Vander's discomfort.
You were my captain, Vander. Now I am captain also. We have 2 ships. If you wish to keep the Sterling, I shall take the superior, smaller vessel.
Where'd you get the other ship from, Plex?
We stole it from the Empire. Bartle Schultz, people's champion, beloved by all honest people and feared by the Empire.
Just Bartle Schultz is fine. There's no need for this every time.
But if I do not explain who he is and what he stands for, how will you know?
I've met him.
This is correct. We went on adventures in Slateholme with Bartle Schultz.
He has told me of your adventures. He was quite heroic. He also helped lead the mission to River City. We were successful. We disrupted supply lines of food to the mainland. Bartle thought that having such an imposing pirate with him would make theft of another airship difficult. But he is an expert planner, and we were able to take this new model of airship from the Empire. It is, as far as we know, one of a kind.
Vander shambles to the rail so he can observe the ship in more detail.
My God, look at the lines. A sloop, if I'm not mistaken.
He salivates.
This ship is lightweight. It is allegedly faster than other airships. It was being specifically designed for the Shadow Vanguard of Habia Alariac. We have stolen his personal vessel. It is a great blow against the Empire.
That is correct. You have done well, beyond expectations.
Inspired work, Plex. I must say I admire the single gun deck. Most formidable. And you are then the captain of this ship?
Yine Mustang.
And what, pray, have you named her?
The naming process has not occurred as yet.
Ah, a problem I too am familiar with. Nevertheless, a fine vessel.
We have not resolved the issue of there being 2 captains, the Dread Pirate Plex and Mustang Vander Finnick.
That is true enough. As the most recent captain then, Plex, what solution do you have in mind?
The solution appears simple. I shall captain one vessel, and the 4 of you shall captain the other.
I am most agreeable to this. I would assume that you prefer the newer ship.
The Dread Pirate Plex will fly any vessel against the Empire. He is a hero. I am a hero.
Indeed you are.
Vander looks torn, though, as he looks at a ship that he knows well and a new, potentially superior vessel. As he looks between one and the other, he turns slowly back to the Sterling.
Memories tie me to this ship, though she may not be as fast as your new acquisition. She is nevertheless dear to me.
Very well, Vander. You can take the Sterling back. I shall take and christen the new ship.
But, Vander, should we not assess each ship's capabilities and make a balanced choice?
There is little need, Tock. Simply by looking at the sloop, you can tell she is a far faster vessel, though less weight of cannon, if we were to equip our ship with such.
So what you're saying is we're going to take an inferior ship and have more chance of getting caught by the Empire because you're feeling nostalgic.
You have missed being lectured by a man in a deck chair. You are correct in a sense, Bennie, but so very incorrect in another. The Sterling has seen us through rough times, and was the beginning of our adventure. To take a new ship now would be a betrayal of the one that brought us so far.
Vander, a ship is an inanimate object. It may not experience betrayal.
Of course, Tock coming to me with yet more very sage advice,
Vander says peevishly.
I would assume from your comments, then, that you are in favor of the newer craft.
I would appreciate the time to inspect the vessel.
With your considerable naval experience?
Indeed, Vander.
Then please, be my guest.
Tock will disembark and will go and inspect the new vessel and try and see some details.
Don't give me an investigation check, please.
Okay, Tock is going to very definitely guide himself.
Oh, it's back!
Because he knows the Sterling very well, so he can compare and contrast the two. He's 17.
Tock gives a thorough inspection of the new ship, making sure to compare it to the Sterling. It is undoubtedly much faster than the Sterling could possibly be. It is also much smaller and a lot more lightweight. It is made with Jarima wood, as the Sterling is, but it's a mixture of Jarima wood and standard wood as well, which means that even though it'll be faster, like pound for pound, it's not lighter than the Sterling.
Tock will finish his investigation of it, and he will go back to the group and report on the differences between the two vessels so that they can make an informed decision.
Vander looks as though he's received absolutely zero new information.
Augustus, Bennie, do you have input on the choice of airship?
Vander, would there be a possibility to switch these airships as we require them? Perhaps our journey north would benefit from a swift vessel, although I quite understand your attachment to the Sterling.
Conversation with Plex may well make that possible, but I do believe that of the two ships, the Sterling is the superior craft in most situations.
Well, we have something of a port here at Sanctuary, so perhaps a little flexibility as we go back and forward. You could remain captain of the Sterling. Presumably that does not prevent you from flying the other vessel on occasion.
I'm afraid, Augustus, there you would be incorrect. There cannot be a captain of two ships. There can only be an admiral.
Vander, that raises the possibility we may require more vessels in a fleet.
I think the first thing we'll require is more gold stitching for the new captain's accoutrement I will be donning as Admiral Vander Finnick.
Very well, Admiral Finnick. Congratulations on your promotion.
Why, thank you.
And Vander sweeps an imaginary hat from his head.
Vander, we've agreed. We're headed to Deepmond.
With that, Vander shuffles towards the poop deck, up the steps, and painfully takes a position, slotting his staff into the familiar hole next to the helm. His two scarred hands reach out, grasping the wheel, and he turns it right then left with reverence and says under his breath, "We're back."
With the decision made, you gather up your supplies and alongside Nozzle and Otis board the Sterling once more. And the first step on planning a prison break for your old friend Caleb. You head off out of Sanctuary, following Buffo's instructions towards the city of Deepmond. And we'll end it there.
You've been listening to Dice Company's Small Embers, starring Dave Windust as Bennie Quez, Alex Morrison as Augustus Zeno, Charlie Blackadder as Vander Finnick, and Harry King as Tock. with Tom Patrick as your dungeon master.
The humans of Dice Company would like to thank the following sweethearts for their support. Marshall 001, Marky B, Darcy Thompson, Jenny the War Camel, Stephen Sakura, Nori Gosler, Mickey Arnold, Happy Daddy Scotty, Tika, S.J. Phionics, Richard Ungamus, Rabbi Camel, Team Vander, Paris Pakar, Path Pursuit, Julia Zeno, Shovels, Mama Strange, Queenie, Liz Beckett, Axel Runholm, and Chris from North London.
When you said alphabetical order, I was going to ask of character name or person name. I was like, dude, you're Alex and you're playing Augustus. Just speak. Unless you're here with Aaron A. Aronson, who's playing an aardvark, just speak.
If
Next campaign, yeah?
There's a furious Aaron A. Aronson staring you in the podcast right now. I cannot believe he took my AAA.
You absolutely horrific bastard. Downtime, I said. Downtime.
Look, Vander's on a kind of busman's holiday, you know? He's got all these really complicated moral restraints on his regular days now. This was a wonderful experience. Vander feels very relaxed by the whole thing.
I'm training him to control his most base urges. His most base powers. I need...
Sorry, I was like, I really wanted to say a cold shower would be appropriate.
Lore.
Thanks for listening. Please consider supporting Dice Company on Patreon, where for the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to a whole other show, Extra Roll, as well as an ad-free listening experience. The Dice Company Discord server, along with our socials, can be found on our Linktree in the show notes. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to recommend us to your friends. If you didn't like it, recommend us to your enemies. And we'll see you next time on Dice Company.